very, very sweet. Now here I am talking about healthy bones with a broken bone, so I hope I don't lose too much credibility today. Welcome everybody, and thank you so much for coming out this evening, and thank you again to everyone who worked on this program. How many people here feel that they've shrunk, that they've lost an inch or two of height? And how many people here feel that they keep gaining a few pounds every year and they're not eating more food? And this program is for you. So we're going to talk today about exercising our way to healthy bones and a healthy weight. Okay, so before we begin, it's important to understand osteoporosis, to know what this disease is. It is a disease characterized by bone mass that's very low, low bone density, and it causes fractures and very, very fragile bones. And osteopenia is a precursor to osteoporosis. And it's so important to understand what osteoporosis is because 1 out of every 2 women will have osteopenia or osteoporosis at age 50 or later. So this is something that's very, very important to understand. Bone loss can affect you in your 20s, your 30s, or your 40s. This is not an old person's disease. And we're here today to learn about how we can prevent osteoporosis, or if you already have it, how you can prevent it from getting worse. It's also called a silent disease. So many people have it and don't even know that they have osteoporosis. They usually find out about it after they break a bone. Some causes for osteoporosis are fixed. There are some fixed risks, for example, your age or your sex, but there are other risks for osteoporosis that you can control, that can be changed. For example, it's very important to talk to your health professional about the medications that you're on. So many people are on anti-anxiety, antidepressants. So many people are on GERD, acid reflux medications, and these medications do increase your risk for osteoporosis. In the picture that you see here, over to the left on the bottom, that's an example of what healthy bone looks like. You can see it's more dense. As you go into osteopenia in the middle, we decrease density, and all the way over to the right is a very brittle bone, and that is osteoporosis over to the right. We lead very sedentary lives now. We sit a good portion of the day. How many hours do you think that you sit? 1 hour or 2 hours? Or maybe as much as 10 hours? Some people sit all the day. And sitting is now the new smoking. It really is becoming a health hazard. All the modern technology and conveniences that were developed to make our life more efficient, make our life better, is causing health issues, causing obesity, causing disease. And it's just so important to think about how often you're sitting during the day and what you can do to change that. And even our children, as we look at our kids, we see that their head is forward, very similar to the picture that you see over here. And it's something that I call text neck, from just looking all day forward at their computers, at their handheld devices. So, you know, look at your children, look at your family, check their posture and see if this is something that needs to be addressed. In the next slide, you can see an example of what good posture looks like. As you can see, the head is right against the wall, and they're 6 centimeters from the neck to the wall. Unfortunately, so many people look like the picture over to the left, where they're against the wall and the head cannot even touch the wall, and that is called kyphosis. So let's take a minute now to do a posture check. Actually, why don't you buddy up with maybe the person next to you, if you're sitting next to someone, and see, are they sitting with their head over their shoulders? Are their shoulders starting to round forward? How forward is the head? So one thing that's very important to do during the day is bring the chin down to the chest. Take 2 fingers and glide the head on top of the shoulders where the head belongs. Poor posture is leading to so much pain that we can avoid. Poor posture causes early arthritis, herniated discs, and impinged nerves. And this is something we can prevent. The other thing that poor posture causes is just a very small breathing capacity. So when you have poor posture and the shoulders round forward, the lung capacity is decreased significantly. So this is very important for ourselves and for our kids. Sometimes young children will be participating in an athletic event, and due to poor posture, they can fatigue out very, very early. In addition to that, poor posture causes bad balance. If you're walking around with your head forward, it changes your alignment, and it just changes everything and will cause falls. In the next slide, we have a young boy sitting up nice and straight to the right. His head is right on top of his shoulders. Our head is really heavy. It's like this big bowling ball on top of our neck. And every head weighs about 10 to 12 pounds. For every inch forward that your head is, you are doubling the amount of pressure on your neck. So for example, in this slide, his head is 12 pounds. He's sitting forward by 3 inches. He has 36 extra pounds of pressure on his neck. So he is really setting himself up for neck and back pain. So poor posture, or kyphosis, a forward head posture, this occurs because we're always looking down when we're typing or reading, sitting improperly with rounded shoulders and a hunched back, driving with the head close to the steering wheel, not do that, and carrying a backpack and a very heavy purse. So what can we do about this? There's so many exercises that should be done on a regular basis to keep good posture. One exercise, which if you have room, you can try right now, is the VW, where you bring your hands into a W. Ideally, you'd be standing up against the wall, and then you straighten the arms up, trying to keep the arms and the shoulders right against the wall, going into your W and into your V. And it's much more effective when you're standing up next to a wall. You can also try scapular retraction. You bring your arms like this, take your scapula or your wing blade and retract, open up so you can feel your shoulders coming back using your upper back muscles and coming back. These exercises can be done anywhere, at work, while you're on the phone. And another way of strengthening our back muscles, because poor posture many times is due to weak back muscles, you can take a band, attach it to a secure piece of furniture, and again, use your upper back, pull the band back, hold it for a second, and then release. Again, this can be done anywhere, and in the next picture, you can see that you don't even need a piece of furniture. You can stand in your office or anywhere with your, anywhere in your home. Take your band and just put it right around your foot and do the same exercise. Another issue that's very important to address is our balance. Balance deteriorates as we age, and of course fractures fall when we have poor balance. It's important for everyone to know when they have good balance. You should have a balance assessment that would include your leg strength, your core strength is part of balance, so you have to have strong core, strong legs, And we can improve this very easily by doing a series of stretching and strengthening exercises. This is important for us. It's also important for our kids. So many times in certain sports, such as tennis, there's a big balance component. And if you have good balance, that will drastically improve your athletic performance. And for older people, it's so easy to improve balance. One way that I always recommend is to do a series of leg lifts. You simply can hold on to a chair. At first, you can start off by placing both hands on the chair, slowly take one away, maybe just one finger on the chair, and the goal would be to be able to do the leg lifts without holding on. For younger people or people at a higher fitness level, to challenge yourself, you can just add a weight. So all exercise programs should always have a functional component. You really need to think about how you use your body during the day, and you want to be able to continue your activities of daily living and strengthen in ways that help you get through the day without any pain or discomfort. So now in the next slide, we really will learn what we all should be doing to stay healthy. It is important to do weight-bearing exercises. Weight-bearing exercises are exercises such as walking, hiking, dancing, and these usually have an aerobic component, meaning that it will increase your heart rate. So these exercises are good for our heart, good for our lungs, and will help with bone density. It's recommended to do 150 minutes of moderate exercise or 75 minutes a week of vigorous activity, but I usually recommend to do some type of aerobic exercise on a daily basis. Our bodies were meant to move, not to be stationary. Now, strength training is crucial to healthy bones and a healthy weight. It's important to do this 2 to 3 times a week. Strength training is an exercise which is when you move your body or your weight against gravity. And this can be done with hand weights or resistance band, tubing, or your own body weight. It's very important to strength train. The way our bones, get stronger is when the muscle pulls on the bone, and that will increase bone density. So you must strength train in order to prevent bone loss. It's also important for weight control. I've worked with so many people that have only included the aerobic component to their exercise plan. As soon as they start adding strength training, you can really help improve your metabolism. After age 30, we lose bone mass. After age 30, we lose muscle mass. And this continues to accelerate as we get older. The more muscle mass we have, the better our metabolism. Muscles are metabolically active. So for those of you who are having trouble controlling your weight, think about adding weight training to your exercise plan. This should be done 2 to 3 days a week, 1 to 3 sets. And over here is just an example of group strength training, which I'm a big fan of. It's just fun, it's cost effective, and it's very motivating sometimes to exercise in a group. Now, for keeping healthy bones, it's important to think about where we typically lose bone density in our hip and our spine. So in our slide, we see an example of back strengthening, back extension, and hip strengthening. So those are exercises that are crucial for keeping bone density.
Could you explain?
We'll put questions till the back. By back extension, I just mean when you're lying on your stomach, leaning back, that's back extension. Back flexion or forward flexion is leaning the other way, touching the toes is forward flexion. Okay, in the next slide, I mentioned the Sanaki and Mickelson study. I won't go into it in too much detail, but the key is that the flexion group had 89% compression fractures. So flexion is coming forward like this, just kind of rounding the back, coming forward. And this study has proven that this is contraindicated for those of you with osteopenia or osteoporosis. The next slide is what our spine looks like, and I just thought this was interesting to see. It breaks up our spine into all the different areas. The thoracic area, if you look at that section, that's a section of bone that's a smaller bone, and that's the area that's very, very susceptible to breakage. The front part of the spine, or the anterior part of the spine, is a weaker bone. The back part of the bone is cortical bone, which is a harder bone. So that's why when you perform forward flexion, you touch your toes, that's the front part of the bone. When you have osteoporosis, the bones start to compress and mush together, and you can self-fracture. Whereas when you do back extension, going the other way, though that's your cortical bone, which is harder, and those are the safer exercises, and the exercises recommended for bone health. In the next slide, you can actually see the front part of the spine, and when you do forward flexion, the vertebrae hit each other and self-fracture, and that could create a wedge fracture. So that's why you'll always hear about the hip hinge. It's important to keep your back straight. Don't round your shoulders. You just take the hips, bend forward from the hips, keeping the hip to the head very, very straight without rounding your back. That's the safe way for a healthy back if you have herniated discs or just for bone health. So this involves your activities of daily living. You should always use a hip hinge when you're putting on shoes, getting out of bed. And the scary thing is, so many people, by just coughing or sneezing, like in a big way, about leaning forward, you can actually self-fracture, and that does happen. So just as important is to know what exercises are safe. You really need to know what not to do. So as I mentioned, forward bends are contraindicated. You should not do those, which means no toe touches, no crunches or sit-ups, no twisting motions, no big twists. And what I really would like to stress this evening is that yoga, many of the yoga positions are not safe. They need to be modified. Forward folds, shoulder stands, for other reasons too, spine twists. You really need to let your instructor know they know of osteopenia or osteoporosis. Same with Pilates, but Pilates is so easily modified because you can do so many of the exercises with your head on the floor, but a lot of the exercises should not be performed. So the question is, what is safe to do if you can't do an abdominal crunch? What exercises can you do to strengthen your core? Well, as I mentioned earlier, you can modify all the Pilates exercises, and some of them are actually done anyway with the head on the floor, such as the leg circles and the corkscrew exercise. You can do the bridge, any type of back extension exercise, and it is a good idea to have an exercise ball, because as you can see in the picture on the left, it is safe to start with your head below the level of the ball in extension and then raise up to neutral position, as long as you don't go further up into forward flexion. And the other picture just shows a very important basic exercise for stretching out the pectoral muscles, because so many times poor flexibility is the cause for bad posture. If you have tight chest muscles, it will cause the shoulders to come forward. Everyone always wants to know about golf. Golf's very popular. Is it safe to play? It really depends on the degree of bone loss. You really do have to check with your doctor, but you can do a golf swing in neutral spine and end the swing in spinal extension. So just make sure that when you do your strength training, you use the right weight. So many times people are using a light weight. You need to use the heaviest weight that you can handle. You should be fatigued after 10 repetitions. If not, you're really wasting your time. Be consistent. You really need to do this 2 to 3 times a week to get results. Make sure to do your weight-bearing exercise. Balance and posture exercises should be done daily, and try not to sit all day. Thank you so much.